Right, are we ready to go?
Yes.
Great. Okay, I think we'll kick off. Firstly, it's a great pleasure to be asked to present to you all today. I must apologise in advance. My system is not playing terribly well this afternoon, so if I do cut out, then one of my colleagues will quickly take over, and I'm sure do an amazing job. Just by way of introduction, my name's Donna Rawson. I head up talent acquisition for EMEA for Invesco. I've been with Invesco for just over 4 years now. So a very interesting time for all of us, especially coming out of the pandemic. It's had a very interesting impact on the market and on employment in general. But what we want to do today is just give you a little bit of an insight into who we are as Invesco, just introduce you to some of the opportunities that we have, tell you more about some of the things that we're looking for, and most importantly, I've got several of my colleagues here to talk more about their personal experiences and to share some hints and tips with you, that they've learned over their time, firstly in the industry, but also, in terms of how they got into the industry. So we've got a few different levels of experience here. So I'd firstly like to introduce Nadine Gervaid. Nadine first joined us in 2018, and she was part of an industrial placement year scheme. We then hired her last year, and she's now currently sitting in the multi-asset class group within our Henley Investment Centre as an analyst. And she's also a founding member of the Rising Careers Network. And I'm sure she'll be able to tell you a little bit more about her history and also a little bit more about the network itself. When was it? So last year, I think it was, and has stayed with us. And it is now currently a product and pricing analyst and also another founder of the Rising Careers Network. And finally, we have someone a little bit more further on in their career, and he hates it when I say this, but the more senior member of our group, Mark Bartley. So Mark heads up our UK distribution management, and he's also the co-chair of the EMEA Ethnicity Network. So you've got some fantastic people who'll be able to share all of their experiences with you. And I'm sure they'll be very happy to share their contact details at the end as well. Just as a bit of an introduction to Invesco, and I don't want to spend too much time sort of going through a lot of statistics, etc., but I do think it's useful just to sort of set the scene a little bit about who we are. For those of you who aren't as aware of us, we are a global investment management firm. We're headquartered in Atlanta, and our EMEA headquarters is based in Henley-on-Thames, about an hour outside of London. We have about $1.4 trillion worth of assets under management globally, and we have specialised teams that manage those investments across a wide range of different asset classes. We're present in about 26 countries, serving more than 120 countries globally, and we have more than 8,000 employees worldwide. Sorry, Zoe, can you just pop back? So in terms of our purpose is that we are aiming to deliver investment experiences that help people get the most out of life. So there's a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience globally, and we pride ourselves on creating new and innovative ways to do business. We also have big ambitions with the drive to learn and grow together. And bringing our purpose to life, we've just recently been through a quite far-reaching employee value proposition project, really to try and distill what's important to us and how do we really bring that purpose to life. So we've come up with these 4 different pillars, the first of which is doing what matters and really sort of making sure that everything that we do is creating an impact for our clients. The second one is really about teamwork, and that's coming together, collaborating, interacting, and just using everyone's knowledge to try and build some better solutions for our clients. The third one is really about inclusion and basically a sense of belonging. So we want to support one another. We have a deep respect for each other, and this is really one of our core values. And finally, we want you to be open to driving your own career growth and to look for different experiences to help achieve, what it is that you really want to achieve during your career. The next slide is really around, why should you think about us as a career option? And again, there's several different reasons that we feel are very, 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 very valuable. The first is really our commitment to diversity, inclusion and belonging. And just following on from the previous slide, we do pride ourselves on really focusing on diversity and making sure that everyone is heard, everyone has a voice, and really that everyone feels valued and respected. So we want to break down barriers, we want to support each other, and that sense of belonging, as I said, is really at the core of everything that we do. Total rewards. Again, this total rewards approach is designed to support you and your families. We have a fantastic benefits package that not only invests in you financially, but also invests in your well-being. And that could be anything from your mental well-being to your financial well-being, etc. And it provides support for other things that might come up along the way. The big topic at the moment is obviously, as a result of the pandemic, what do working patterns look like? And we're really excited. We think this is a huge opportunity for us. And so what we're looking is trying to look at what really worked well for us over the past 12 months. So, what did we learn from the last 12 months in terms of, giving employees greater flexibility, looking at how we can still collaborate, and basically combining everything that we've learned from working remotely to the best of actually collaborating and interacting with each other in an office environment. Around 80% of our positions has been designated as hybrid roles, which means that on average people would work, maybe 3 or 4 days in the office with 2 to 3 days at home. And again, sort of maximising what works best for each particular person. Development, we also offer development opportunities, and that's throughout your entire career, whether that's right at the start, in the middle of your career, or towards the end of your, well, not the end of your career, but towards the more senior level of your career. And that could be management training. It could be anything to do with, anything that's relevant to your particular role. It could be different soft skills, etc. So there is really that fantastic opportunity to get involved and to learn, constantly. Finally, we have a really dedicated approach to ESG investing. And also we're committed to making sure that we support our communities and each other. So each year people can actually take up to 2 days to volunteer with a particular charity that they feel quite passionate about. But this is something, again, that is really central to how we operate as a firm. Just a little bit of information about entry level. And I think I'll preface this by saying at the moment, there's a lot of ad hoc internships, for instance. We haven't, unlike a lot of firms, we don't have a really structured approach to entry level at the moment. But we are reviewing that so that we're trying to sort of get a more consistent approach across the region with both how we approach entry level recruitment and really what the purpose is behind that. But I've just listed a couple of different programs that we do participate in here as well. And the ones that I've highlighted in green are ones that are actively open at the moment. So we do participate in Investment 2020, and we typically take around 12 to 15 trainees each year across all different parts of the business. This year we've also participated in the Kickstart program, which is a government initiative designed to really give young people who've been negatively impacted by the COVID crisis access to opportunities. And we've also just kicked off our Investment Summit Internships recruitment drive. So we have 7 vacancies for that at the moment across different teams within our Henley Investment Centre. We do also offer a number of industrial placement years. Again, these are not sort of typically structured. They tend to sort of come up simply because someone in the business is looking for, someone to bring in and train up. So we do, at any one time, we've probably got 4 or 5 people here on an industrial placement year. Those, we don't partner with any particular university on that. It's really just, if we have an opportunity, we will advertise it, and anyone from any university is welcome to apply for that. We're offering a couple of legal traineeships at the moment as well. So this is really a path to admission as a solicitor. It's a 2-year program, and one of the really good things about this is that there is the opportunity to also rotate through one of the top tier law firms that we partner with as well. And finally, we're just about to start advertising for a thought leadership intern, and that will be another 12-month placement year. So there are lots of different opportunities. In terms of what we're looking for, again, I'm not going to go through this in excruciating detail. You can probably read through these, but I think the key to everything is really just looking for people who can bring something different. So, you know, people with different perspectives, people who have intellectual curiosity, who've been able to demonstrate resilience, motivation, people who are self-starters. You know, we talk about being the most client-centric firm in the industry, so we want to know how you can help with getting us there. And we're looking for people who have ambitions for the future. So, you know, obviously think about what motivates you, what you want to achieve, and you know, how can we help you get there as well. Tips for success. I just wanted to, you know, especially if you are thinking of applying for an internship with us, first and foremost, follow the instructions on how to apply. So we've just recently introduced a slightly different way of asking people to apply. So not only are we asking you to put forward a CV, but we're also asking you to provide some answers to some questions that are important to us. And those questions are really around your strengths and your motivations. So it's a fantastic opportunity to really be able to bring your CV to life. So, you know, if you're asked to provide a written submission, please do. I've been looking through a lot of applications so far, and there are a significant number of people that haven't actually submitted that written piece of work. So obviously, if you're asked to do that, make sure you do it. We're also, again, in this whole spirit of diversity, we're looking for people with lots of different interests outside of academia. So when you're putting your applications together, just think about, you know, the other things that you do outside of your academic achievements. So we really want to know what makes you tick. You know, what are your interests? What can you really bring that is going to set you apart from other people? And don't assume that some of your experience isn't relevant. So we do want to see what you've done. You know, you could have done anything from working at Tesco to doing an internship. You know, all of that stuff is really relevant, and all of that gives us a little bit more insight into, you know, who you are, what your motivations are, you know, how you've sort of demonstrated initiative, loads of different things. So make sure that you put as much down in your CV as possible. And also in the questions, just make sure that you sort of look at other areas of interest, not just things that you've done at university. And finally, just on that, you know, we're looking again for people that, again, can bring something different. So you don't need to be the president of the Investment Society. Again, we're looking for people who have an interest in the industry, and that could be from any different degree stream. So I'm going to stop there, and I will hand you over now to the people who will be able to talk to you and tell you a little bit more about their experiences. And obviously, you know, please do put any questions that you have into the Q&A chat, and we'll come to those at the end as well. So Nadine, over to you.
Thanks, Donna. Hi, everyone. As Donna already mentioned, so I'm an analyst in the multi-asset investment team. I joined just a year ago after graduation, but I was also part of the doing a placement here during my university. And that was about 3 years ago in 2018, did that for a whole year. And I would say that year was really crucial to help build my knowledge on the investment management industry, but also to get to know different people from across the departments. One thing I found really helpful at Invesco is the collegiate and collaborative environment. It's really easy to reach out to people. It's really easy to network and catch up and learn about what they're up to and getting involved with a lot of different projects. This year, I've been part of the ESG project as well, which is some funds we're launching for our Summit Responsible Funds. And there's always opportunity to grow and learn from some of the most highly knowledgeable personnel at the industry. And as Donna briefly mentioned about the Rising Careers Network, so Zoe and I are one of the founding members of the network, which is aimed for people with less than 5 years of experience. And this network has been really well received by senior management teams as well, which really shows that Invesco is open to diversity of thoughts, and anyone with different ideas can come forward, and it's always well received. Any tips that I'd like to present is networking is one of the key elements. It's always good to reach out to people, get to know what they're up to, and yeah, show curiosity, ask a lot of questions, because this is a stage where as much as you can learn is crucial and really amazing. So that's something yeah, you can show by reaching out and proactively collaborating with outside of your team and different departments as well. And in terms of saying what I've really enjoyed at Invesco is, again, it's really welcoming to new joiners. You can bring up your ideas in, and it's really helpful to build your career quite quickly. So in the first few months, I got involved with some of the great projects and taking ownership of them. So, and exciting learning opportunities from, of course, your team members, out of the team, who are you working with on projects. And yeah, and of course, like presenting today after only being in the industry for a year is really how your soft skills can be developed as well as technical skills, which are required. And lastly, I would mention that if you're not coming from an in finance background, there's always trainings available, which we have a dedicated portal. And it's really helpful to learn about role-specific technical requirements, but also soft skills, and there's amazing training on unconscious bias, etc. And having said that, I'll now pass over to Zoe.
Thanks, Nadine. Hi, everyone. So I joined Invesco 2 years ago on the Investment 2020 program, which is one of the programs that Donna highlighted on her previous slide. So I joined the program straight out of university. I studied economics. So I kind of, given that I studied economics, but it definitely is not a requirement to get into the industry. I'd say people at this firm have degrees in everything. Some people, there's like the Investment 2020 program as well, is specifically designed so that for people that have joined straight out of school, for example. And so I joined having done economics. So I kind of knew that finance interested me. And then asset management specifically, I had heard of as being a very nice industry, which is definitely something that I've kind of would say that the industry, in my experience, has lived up to. So I saw the Investment 2020 opportunity at Invesco appear, and I thought I'd apply. I have to say, I personally didn't know 100% what I was applying for. I kind of could Google Invesco and see that it was a great organization, but I wasn't sure exactly what the role would entail. And then the kind of HR department got back to me and said, would you be interested in applying for the product role, which again was slightly a shot in the dark for me because I did not know what product was going to involve. But they sent me over a job specification, and it kind of had and I really recommend doing this as well. I think people design job specifications and kind of program specifications with what they actually think would be required. I think people take time to build those job specifications, so I definitely recommend looking at it. And it said kind of the types of skills and things that would interest you and if you would like this role. And so I was like, well, that seems to match up with what I think I'm interested in. I'll go along for the interview. And so anyway, in the end, I obviously started on the program and I really, really enjoyed it. So that's a 1-year program. And at the end, I rolled off and I stayed in the same department that I started in. I have been really enjoying my time at Invesco. I would say that it's like something that I agree with Nadine, and kind of as Donna said, when Invesco says it's a nice company, it really is a nice company. Everyone here is just so friendly. I feel like everyone's interested in helping me develop my career. Everyone's, including my manager, is asking me about next steps. I really genuinely feels like everyone truly has my best interests at heart, which is kind of a really nice atmosphere to be around, and kind of gives you the confidence to, if you have ideas, definitely just share them. And the more that you share ideas, like the more that you kind of gain your confidence and yeah, and it's just a really nice place to kind of begin your career and find your feet, because definitely everybody is so interested in hearing what you have to say and getting a new perspective. My role is actually hybrid, so I can work from home or work in the office. Kind of, it's meant to be about 3 days a week in the office, but I know it varies from team to team, so hence I'm in the office today. My advice would be, if you are joining kind of any firm, is that it's definitely all about attitude. I definitely go into every meeting when I started saying, you know, I'm here to learn and keen, whatever task that I would be given, I would definitely give it 110% every time. Whatever you think it is, because you just never know what kind of task is going to lead to what opportunity. And even the most menial of tasks might sometimes really help me in the future when I'm then doing something a bit more complicated, to kind of have that knowledge to draw on. So I definitely think just enthusiasm is key. And then, yeah, finally, we obviously, as Nadine mentioned, we founded the Rising Careers Network, which is just definitely an example of kind of how the industry and Invesco are really receptive to new ideas. We came in and we said we want to do this, and everyone has been so supportive. Everyone we asked for help has given us help, and anytime we've kind of gone with a plan for anything, definitely people at Invesco have been rallying around our various events that we've decided to put on, and the network has snowballed from being about four of us sitting in a room creating a one-pager about what we'd like to achieve, to now we have about 50 members and fielding emails all the time of new ideas that people want to take part in. I know Nadine probably feels the same. So yeah, it's definitely kind of something exciting to be a part of, and I just highly recommend joining the industry and Invesco specifically. So with that, I'll stop talking and I'll pass over to Mark.
Thanks. Hi everyone. Yeah, definitely the sort of the elder statesman in this conversation. But look, you know, I think for me, I've been in the industry about sort of 21 years. Originally just kind of fell into it, right? So I studied sort of more computing technology, and then, you know, it's like you finish studying and you think to yourself, right, okay, at that point I just wanted to get a job of some kind, and I started working in the call center here at what was then Perpetual, which was then acquired by Invesco. And I sort of did that for first of all, I thought, well, this is going to be a short-term thing. Just realized I started to become interested in the industry. After a couple of years, I thought, right, this is the sort of thing that I'd like to do longer term, but definitely felt as I needed to get more into sort of sales or distribution. That was kind of what I really wanted to do. And at that point, it was, you know, nobody ever left Invesco. So I sort of did sort of 3-ish years at Invesco, then went to work at a small investment boutique house, which is like just a much smaller firm. So I went from a company like Invesco, which was, you know, sort of 1,000 employees on site, to a business where there were, you know, about sort of 50, 60 people in the whole company. But it gave me great experience in terms of getting into, you know, learning about the sales cycle, how I can work with clients, and what was required of me longer term. So again, did that for sort of 3-4 years, built my sort of my knowledge, and then I was at a stage where I was at a crossroads. I wasn't sure whether or not I wanted to stay on this side of the fence or whether or not I wanted to go down the advising route. So for a year, I worked with a financial advisor, helping them to build out their investment proposition for their clients, and just really trying to figure out if that was where the direction I wanted to go in. And then towards the end of just after my first year there, the opportunity came up to come back to Invesco. So I returned to Invesco in 2009 in what would be a client relationship manager role now, which is really like from a sales perspective, the sort of the entry level, if you like. So working as a number 2 on the accounts with, you know, with the lead sales individual, just sort of managing the clients, making sure they got everything that they need. I did that for a couple of years, and then I was promoted to become a sales account manager, which meant I had a client bank of my own. I managed these clients on my own. They were kind of, the idea was I would develop these clients. They were people who were aware of Invesco, but, you know, hadn't been using our products, you know, a lot. So I kind of did that for a few years. I was then promoted to a regional sales manager, which meant I looked after the southeast of England for Invesco. What that kind of taught me was, you know, working with these kind of higher profile clients and how we as a business can engage with them. So that was really important for me, because one of the things I learned about myself through time was that I continually needed to be stretched. And so it meant that I needed to sort of develop my skill set in certain areas to, you know, to, like I said, working with these more higher profile clients who were more commercially aware, had slightly different asks of us as a business. It meant I continued to learn. Did that for 4 years, and then for a couple of years, and then I was promoted to head of internal sales. So it meant that I was then managing a team that I was once part of. It was great for me. That was the direction I wanted to go in. Had the opportunity, obviously, when it came up, so went for the role, and I got it. And actually, it was the second time I'd gone for the role. So the first time that I'd gone for that role, I was unsuccessful, and they kind of gave it to someone else. And you know, after sort of 18 months down the line, it came up again. I went for it again, and I was successful. And I think, you know, the key thing for me there, you know, I saw, you know, Donna highlighted about sort of resilience, and sometimes it's about things don't always happen the first time that you want them to. And what was really important for me was that the takeaways from that whole, you know, the environment of, well, I've been for a role, I've been unsuccessful, you know, why was I unsuccessful? What might I change if I, you know, had to do this again? For me personally, it's about making sure that somebody can never say no to me the second time for the same reason. So I managed our internal sales team for 4 years, and then sort of in 2020, I was promoted into this role, which is head of UK distribution management. Essentially, I work with our head of UK distribution to just run our whole UK distribution business. So I think from my perspective, it's been great because I've kind of worked my way up through the various different roles. I think, you know, my advice to anyone, that whichever role you're in, is always think about, right, okay, how can I, you know, make the most of where I am? And one of the things that I always did when I was sort of looking and thinking about where I wanted my career to go, and one of the things that I do with my team now as I'm developing them, is always look and say, right, okay, where do I think I want to go next? And then looking at the job description for that role and trying to understand where the gaps are between, you know, what I'm doing now and where my knowledge is at the moment, and why somebody might be able to say no to me for the next role. And are there any kind of projects or initiatives I might be able to get involved in to demonstrate that those gaps aren't as big as they might appear? And I've done that throughout my career, and always looked and said, right, okay, what is the next step? Where am I heading? How can I try and plug some of these gaps? And so that'd be something I'd really advise someone to do. Also, as well as the head of UK distribution management, I'm also co-head of our ethnicity network. So we kicked that off about 4 years ago, myself and a colleague. And that was really important, because for me, it was about trying to, you know, we talk about a lot about wanting people to come to work and be this, you know, in their truest form. And for me, it's always been about an education process. So like I said, we kicked it off 4 years ago, started to sort of work with a number of people around the industry, and sort of helping each other and trying to get to a stage where, you know, us here at Invesco can become the sort of type of community where anybody can come in and work and feel as though they can be their true version and be the best version of themselves. I've seen that became really acute over the last couple of years whilst we were in lockdown, and there were, you know, events going on all over the globe, and particularly in the US with George Floyd, etc. And the fact that we actually had a network in place where we were able to offer support to some of our colleagues, education to some of our colleagues, and just really keep the sort of the narrative and momentum behind trying to bring about change. And we've had, you know, as the guys have mentioned on their network, we've had some great support from sort of our senior colleagues and senior engagement. And I think that's really important. So for me, when I think about a place that I want to work, I want to come and be a true version of myself. I want to be the best version of myself, but I need to feel as though I'm afforded a level playing field where, you know, I can make progress in my career. And I think that's what I've had here. So, you know, another bit of advice I'd kind of give to everyone, you at the early stages of your career, is to not feel as though that you need to have all of the answers now. Don't feel as though you need to sit there and know exactly where you want to be in 10 years. Look at what you're doing now, try and figure out, you know, the parts of the role that you're doing that you enjoy the most, and then think about roles where you might be able to dial that up a little bit, and then, you know, dial some of the other stuff down. For me, I enjoy speaking to people, I enjoy engaging with clients. I'm less of an attention to detail kind of person. So when I see spreadsheets and they get emailed to me, it kind of, it's energy zapping for me. So I'm trying to think about how can I dial this bit up and dial that down, and that's kind of where it will help me to make progress at this point. So that's a little bit about me and kind of what I do, and like I said, a little bit of advice for you guys on the call. But obviously, we're happy to take any questions that you may have and and answer those.
Great, thanks everybody. I have actually been answering a couple of questions as we've been going through. So we have had some questions just on how long each of the answers to the strengths-based questions should be. And again, I've put an answer in there, but just to reiterate, it's really up to you as to how much detail you want to give us. So I would suggest, giving us enough detail that we can really get an understanding of what it is that you're talking about. And each of those strengths-based questions for each of our different internships could be quite different. So, you can write as much or as little as you like. Clearly, don't write War and Peace. We all have, time is precious for everybody, but put enough that, that you feel comfortable you've really been able to, to deliver your message appropriately. Nadine, there was a question here about the use of derivatives in multi-asset strategies, which
Yep, I'm happy to take that question.
you'd be far better placed to answer than I will, so I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So yes, we do use a lot of derivatives, basically from futures, options, interest rate swaps, and various other, because it's of course multi-asset, so it's not just equities or bonds. We have a lot of commodities, as I mentioned, so a lot of options we use, and then volatility currencies in the portfolio as well. So I did accounting and finance and did touch on derivatives slightly, but when I joined the company, I realized that that was all theoretical. So there were a lot of resources available to get practical knowledge, and my colleagues, so people in my team, are really helpful, and they've really helped me understand the derivatives better. So there's always resources, people available who are really helpful to understand and engage in derivatives better. And yeah, hope that helps.
Right, there's a couple of other questions here as well, just on, can you throw some light on multi-asset credit within Invesco? I have approximately 10 years of experience working in Indian and international debt capital markets.
I think we've just lost on there, but it said I worked across, must finish the question, worked across a wide spectrum of debt strategies ranging from investment grade, DCM to infrastructure, and project debt to alternatives to opportunistic to most recently ESG. And basically, what's the route to apply to Invesco for someone like me who's a lateral hire? Okay, as we can't hear Donna, I think, look, the reality is, and I think there's a couple of other questions about the recruitment process for sort of more experienced applicants.
Can you hear me?
Oh, we can now, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say, just on the application piece, I mean, I know
sorry, there's about a 4-second delay. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah.
I'll take this. So yeah, I think that so all,
sure.
There are roles within which Donna will sort of manage, where kind of go through centrally, and there are always other roles that are turning up in teams, right? So at any given time, we might have somebody who either leaves the business, or we create an opportunity because there's growth. It's a growth area. So for me, it's always about sort of monitoring the Invesco sort of career section. For instance, I'm recruiting at the moment, and generally it's quite. I'm really sort of broad about about what we look for at the beginning. So for me, it's always about the right individual. I want people to come to Invesco with the things that I can't teach. So having a great work ethic, having that sort of motivation to to make sure that when you're sitting behind the desk and you're working autonomously, that you don't need sort of me to sort of be sort of shoulder surfing to get you to do stuff. So I'm not a micromanager. I create an environment where people can come in and have the opportunity to grow, and yes, everyone's going to make mistakes, and that's kind of how we learn a little bit. But for me, when you're applying, just think about sort of highlighting those points and the things that people can't necessarily teach you. That'll be my thing, but always constantly look at the careers section on the Invesco website, because we do post them all on there.
I just saw a question about visa assistance, and I can answer that, having recently gone through the process. So really, assistance is always there, and I didn't really have to worry about it as it was taken care of. So yeah, answer is yes. So there is help, and yeah, that shouldn't put you off from applying.
Okay, I can see a question here about roles suitable for recent graduates, and can I apply for a summer internship as a postgraduate? We do give preference to undergraduates for the internship program. However, I will caveat that by saying I think post-pandemic, we're seeing a lot more people applying for internship roles who do have master's degrees, and I'm sort of applying a little bit of logic there to say that, you know, perhaps, you know, during the pandemic, education was probably seen as a safe haven. So I think, you know, we're going to see more people coming through who are applying for internship roles who do have master's degrees. So I would say please do apply. There's nothing stopping you from applying, and certainly, you know, I think we're fairly open, and we've certainly become a lot more open even over the past year in looking at people from, again, all different walks of life, all different degree streams, undergraduates, postgraduates, etc. So I would actively encourage you to apply for a role, even if you do have a postgraduate degree, and even if you see it's just for undergraduates, put an application in. If you're not suitable for that role, there may well be another one that you may be suitable for. So sometimes it's all about timing as well. Right, I wanted to ask about the recruitment process for experienced applicants. I think Mark's answered that one already. Are the applications reviewed on a rolling basis? I'm not quite sure I understand the question, to be honest. So when we advertise, obviously, you know, as candidates come in, we will be making sure that they meet the basic criteria, but the decisions would not be made until the applications themselves are finally have closed, so that we're comparing everyone on an equal footing. Next question is, could the panel share their favourite experiences from their time at Invesco? So Zoe, do you want to kick that one off?
I can do. I think my answers are going to give me away as a massive extrovert, because when I try and think back of my favourite experiences, they definitely involve a lot of other people being there. Having said that, I would say that the working from home experience was far less painful than it could have been. But definitely my favourite experiences would be, well, for example, one that's coming to mind is that recently we had a networking event, an in-person networking event with the Rising Careers Network. And so we had all the new joiners that we had about 20 new joiners that joined a couple of weeks ago. And then we had all us members of the kind of existing members of the Rising Careers Network. And then we had our senior leaders. So we had our Chief Investment Officer of the Henley Investment Centre join, and our head of sales and the head of my department also came and presented as well. And then we had just drinks afterwards, and it was there kind of, and nibbles. And it was just really fun to have an in-person event, having had all this time to kind of speak to people on Skype for so long. But kind of on a more work related, I think there are lots of kind of little highs. Every personal achievement is definitely something that kind of, yeah, it kind of definitely as well through the pandemic kind of made me feel like I had a bit of purpose to my day. Was those kind of small wins that you get at work that were probably more valuable than they would have been had I been having a bit more of a kind of life. But yeah, definitely giving myself away as an extrovert. I'll pass on to Nadine.
Thank you. I was actually going to mention the networking event as well, because that was definitely a highlight of what we've been working on for the past year, the Rising Careers Network. But in addition to that, recently we went to the Henley Festival. So there's always this opportunity to really, like, outside of work, collaborate and go to events with your team members. So getting to know my team in a much more informal environment was one of the highlights, and I really enjoyed that. And that was also the first time I met most of the team in person for the first time, as I joined during the pandemic. So yeah, definitely a highlight. And yeah, with that, I'll pass over to Mark for his answer.
Sure. I think from a professional perspective, probably, you know, I think every salesperson has that, you know, they have that one big deal that they manage to kind of pull in that, you know, probably lives with you forever. So I had one of those, which probably actually helped me get promoted outright. So you know, I sort of, that was a great moment for me, having sort of taken it from cradle to grave. So, you know, speaking to the client for the first time, engaging a number of my investment colleagues to kind of help to explain the intricacies of the product to the client, managing it through, because it doesn't just happen overnight. You know, it's a 6-month sort of period, and then finally when you get that call that, yeah, you know, you basically won the pitch, and then the money flows in. Yeah, it's a great feeling. As well as that, I think the social aspect at Invesco is great. So the Christmas parties are usually pretty good. I could probably pick any one of 4 or 5 that would be my favorite moment, but yeah, I think that's really, really good. You know, people kind of get together and almost feels like, you know, that you kind of get the idea of this is what we're all sort of what we're working for and working towards. And yeah, they tend to be quite good events. So I think the social aspect of Invesco is really, really important.
Great. Next question was, do you have any opportunities for students graduating in 2022 at the moment? So again, if you're interested in any of the investments internships, and I would strongly encourage you to apply for one of those. The other program that you might be interested in is the Investment 2020 program. So we will be opening applications for that probably towards the end of the year. And candidates, or successful candidates, would join us in about September 2022. So that may be a good one just to keep an eye out for. And again, there are opportunities all across the business for that one. So it may not just be in investments, there could be opportunities in marketing, distribution, etc., etc. The next question was about a graduate program. As I mentioned earlier, we don't really have a structured graduate program as such. There are graduate roles that do come up from time to time, but it really is on an ad hoc and an as required basis. So again, I'd strongly encourage you to register on our talent network. You can actually register for job alerts in particular areas of the business that are of interest to you, so that as soon as a role becomes available, it will email you and you'll know straight away. So hopefully over the next couple of years, though, we will have a bit more of a coordinated approach, and hopefully we will have a slightly more structured graduate program there. The next question was around what the difference is, the pros and cons between working in a firm such as Invesco, which focuses mainly on investment management, rather than in the asset management division of big banks such as JP Morgan, HSBC, etc. Mark, would you be able to take that one, do you think?
Yeah, sure. I'll do my best anyway. Yeah, so look, I think the main bits for me are, you know, clearly working within a big global bank and being in an asset management sort of arm of that firm will mean that you often get to leverage off, you know, sometimes the I guess the sort of the financial position of the bank, and it may be that you can kind of you can invest a lot more into your technology, or you can make these kind of investments much quicker because it can happen across a broader base. So I guess that might be seen as an advantage if you're working in that type of business. I guess from a career perspective as well, it just means that if you wanted to jump outside of, you know, pure asset management, you might be able to do that. If that's where your career interest lies, it might be easier for you to make that transition internally than kind of going and having to recruit in. So that might be an advantage there. I think for a business like ours at Invesco, where we focus only on investment management, I think that in itself is the advantage. Right? This is all we think about. We're not sort of, what we do is not coloured by how the decisions we make in terms of investments or products that we design might impact another arm of the business, because all we're here focusing on is, like I said, the investment management piece and trying to deliver the best results for our clients. So I think actually having that, it's still a broad area because we've got lots of different types of clients and we're a global business, but that single focus of making, the idea that we want our clients to give us money and for us to return more to them than they've given to us, I think just gives us that sort of focus. And I think that's what you see around the business, that we're all here, we all interact right across the globe, but we're all in that with that one common goal. We're just trying to, achieve what's best for our clients. So I think that's probably the biggest advantage, because we're not tainted by anything else.
Great. Nadine, would you like to take the next question just around describing the culture at Invesco?
Yep, of course. So as I mentioned before as well, it's a really collaborative culture and encourages people to show diversity of thoughts and introducing new ideas. I would say it's also a really friendly environment. As I mentioned, when I was an intern, there was opportunity to really pick brains of people from different departments. So everyone is there for your best interest, and reaching out to people to catch over coffees is really easy. So I would say it's a really inclusive culture.
Donna, I'm not sure if you're on mute.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just saying a day in the life of a product pricing analyst. Sounds like that's right up your street, Zoe.
Yeah, I'll take this one. It's a good question because my day can be completely varied. So I actually split my time. So I spend kind of 50% of my time working for one team, which is the more product side, and then 50% doing the more pricing side. Both those teams are not based out of the UK, so I spend a lot of time on the phone. One is based out of Dublin and one is based out of Frankfurt in Germany. So I spend a lot of time on the phone. My kind of day can be anything from maybe running a meeting for a product initiative that we're kind of working towards, and looking after the various project plans, etc., and ensuring the tasks are ticked off for that. So that will be kind of chairing a meeting of a few involved people to ensure that we've engaged all the members kind of within the organization that we need to kind of, I receive on the more pricing side, I receive a lot of calls from the sales team, so people like Mark. I receive a lot of calls from them kind of asking me about various opportunities that they have coming up, or kind of they often want status updates on the opportunities that they're currently looking at. So yeah, my day can be anything from kind of looking at spreadsheets and Mark says he doesn't like that, but I do quite often. What I would say is that my role has quite kind of blended, kind of it's almost designed to be what I'm probably best at. Over time, I find that kind of happens quite naturally. Like the tasks that you're particularly good at get assigned to me within the team, and so you kind of become, you get more and more to do with what you kind of make it to be. So yeah, my day can sometimes be diving headfirst into a spreadsheet and trying to work out how to make that maybe explainable throughout the business in a nice PowerPoint, or kind of how to make sense of it sometimes. But then it also can be kind of a larger meeting that I'm looking after, or it can also be kind of one-on-one with sales team. So the conclusion is incredibly varied, but whatever I want it to be is kind of what my role has become.
Mark, I might ask you to take the flat management hierarchy question there. So I've heard people say that Invesco has a flat management hierarchy. I'm wondering how the panel has experienced this personally. Mark, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, sure. I guess, yeah. I mean, look, it helps massively in terms of being able to, if you're that way inclined, if you want to develop your career, you know, you get a lot of access to people that are maybe higher up the food chain, so to speak. I think when I look from the top down, so if you look at, you know, the head Marty, our sort of head guy in the US, 2, 3, 4, I think I'm like, you know, there are 4 people above me to him, right? So you know, and I've had the, you know, had the opportunity, I had to go in and sort of present one of our products and update him on that. So I think having that flat structure does mean that you get, you know, that you get more access to the guys above. And I think that Invesco is quite good. You know, we're talking about culture just now, quite good culturally in terms of allowing you to have that sort of opportunity. You know, people aren't really precious about it. And so that's what I think the flat structure helps. And also just from a sort of development point of view, because like I said, you feel as though there are meaningful jumps when you do make them, as opposed to, you know, someone giving you these sort of slight nudges, and you're not really sure, was that a promotion or was that not a promotion? You know, that doesn't really work for somebody like me. I'm sort of quite goal orientated, so right, I want to make sure that when I make this next step, it's a real step, and then I look to the next thing. So I think I've benefited from that because that structure probably works for me. And again, like I said, having the opportunity to interact with people higher up the food chain has been great for, I guess, you know, my sort of development, internal PR, and just building relationships and networks generally.
Thanks, Mark. There's been a couple of questions just about international students and sponsorship via Tier 2 visa. Maybe if I can take that one myself. So the Tier 2 visa, which I think most worker visa, each organisation bids for a certain number of skilled worker visas. So there are a limited number of those. So whilst I would say it is possible for us to sponsor, you know, foreign students, people internationally, etc., in practice, we have to sort of be fairly careful about how we use those visas. So I would say, again, apply. It often depends on how niche the role is. It depends on how difficult it is for us to fill. And ultimately, it also depends on how competitive you are as a candidate as well. So I know that's a slightly vague answer, but it's about the best I can do at the moment. So there have been a lot of changes to the visa process. I think everyone's really still coming to terms with what those changes really look like and how we apply them in practice. So I think, you know, if anyone has any particular questions about their own personal situation, I think our LinkedIn handles are actually in the chat there. So please feel free to reach out to me directly if you have a specific question about that. I am an ACCA student. What's the most suitable position for me at Invesco? And I think we have another question similar to that. So I guess the logical answer to that would probably be, you know, within finance. However, I think there's probably a number of people across the business that do have an ACCA qualification. Nadine, I'm not sure if you might like to answer that. I know you started off as doing your industrial placement year in finance.
Yes, so I do know a lot of people who did ACA or ACCA qualifications, or they were in between them. And it definitely helps with the corporate reporting side, where you are using a lot of the IFRS standards, so the reporting standards. But yes, that would be the most relevant role for ACCA. But I do know someone in the investment side who did ACA but ended up there as an analyst in the UK equities. So definitely that's not a limited position to be in finance, having done ACA. It's how you show your skill set, having done the qualification.
Thanks. Mark, I'm going to call on you to take the ESG question. So how are you introducing ESG criteria in your investment decisions, and what is the view of your clients about that? Are you able to answer that one?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about ESG from a client perspective, and then maybe Nadine might even be best positioned to talk about how it's impacting the investment decisions. But so look, ESG clearly, the reality is we want to be, the most client-centric firm in the industry. So anything that's important to our clients is important to us. I think also generally, and I don't know whether or not this was accelerated by, COVID and everybody being in lockdown, but it just felt as though we came out of that period a lot more focused and aware about, the impact of what we do and what companies do on the environment and generally the world more broadly. So we've been focused on it for a long time. We've been speaking about it as a company for a long time. We've recently launched a range of products called the Summit Responsible range. So that's out there for everyone to be able to invest in. And what we've done is we've been able to provide even like an ESG friendly investment to clients for tens of pounds a month if you'd like to do that, right? So it's not, what we try to do is bring it to the general market, not have something which is only available for high net worth individuals. So it's quite important to us. So what we were doing was trying to be able to kind of encourage people that had that interest, that to understand that they can invest in companies that do sort of match their their views and obviously their goals. So it's important to us. We think about it in all what we're doing. It basically bleeds into pretty much every conversation that we're having and thinking about as we look forward. But in terms of, I guess, like I said, on the investment side and how it impacted decisions, then maybe Nadine, it'll be best for you to take that part.
Yeah, sure. So I can give an example of, so multi-asset team, we have a more top-down approach on investment decisions. And what difference now that clients are requiring more about ESG products is that we've included the environment, social, and governance aspects of each idea that we invest in. And Summit Responsible, again, something that we've launched earlier this year, part of the multi-asset team as well. That's dedicated to the ESG and all the related, so carbon emissions, net zero, alignment. So that is focused on that. And yeah, there's a lot of client demand. So that is something that is embedded into the investment decisions. But of course, the goal is not just to provide the best scores, because in the end, we are an investment management firm. So it's always aligned with, there's a lot of risk tests that are done at each portfolio level to make sure that the return expectations are stayed the same or increased, if that's possible, rather than just focusing on ESG. And yes, so hopefully that helps.
Thanks both. I think there's probably time for one more question, and that is, someone's joined the presentation late, so sorry if this has been covered. Could you give a quick overview of the summer internship application process? So this is quite topical at the moment. So we have 7 summer internship roles that are currently advertised on our website. We're asking you to submit not only your CV, but the responses to 4 or 5 strengths-based questions. Now, the point of having these strengths-based questions is to really give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit more about yourself, your motivations, your achievements, what interests you really, than we can get from just a CV. So it's really a really good opportunity for you to be able to put your best foot forward and to really separate yourself from the pack. And I think when, we typically receive around 700 applications for these internships. So obviously the ability to differentiate yourself is absolutely critical. So, when you apply, please don't forget to submit your responses to those questions. I've been a little bit surprised as I've been through that a lot of people have not submitted their responses and just attached their CVs. So as it says in our advertisement, it sounds a bit harsh, but unfortunately, if you don't submit those responses, we won't be able to consider your application. So again, with doing this, not only does it give you a great opportunity to sell yourself a little bit more, but it puts everyone on a much more level playing field, because everyone is addressing those same questions. So again, we can compare and contrast answers much more easily than just looking at a CV. Once people have been shortlisted at that point, the next step in the process is a couple of aptitude tests. So they could be a numerical reasoning test that sort of really gives us an understanding of how comfortable you are with numbers. And there's also a personality questionnaire, which is designed to give us a little bit more of an insight into how you like to work. So what are your preferences within the workplace? You know, how do you prefer to act? How do you prefer people to act towards you? And that information helps us really tailor the interview to your personal experience and to your personal strengths and areas for development there. The final stage in the process is a meeting, a video interview, and that would be typically with the hiring manager of that role and potentially with another member of the team. So not only will you get to speak to the person that you'll be working with on a daily basis, you'll also get the opportunity to speak to someone else in the team who may have also been through this process, not in the not too distant past themselves, and who may be able to answer a lot of the questions that you might have about what it's like to work here. So that's kind of the process itself. Again, if anyone has any further questions about that, please do reach out to me. I'm more than happy to field any other questions after this. And I think we're right on time. So Alex, I'm not sure if there's anything else that we need to cover, but if not, thank you so much everyone for attending. It's been fantastic, and thank you so much for all the fantastic questions as well. Thanks to the team from Invesco also for giving up your time and for doing this. And I'm sure that we would all be very happy to answer any other questions that you may have. So please do feel free to reach out to any of us at any point. Thanks again, all the very, very best of luck for your future careers, and we hope to see an application from you one day. So thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.